Mirza is saying, would you concede to the term Islamophobia to fight a larger cause of anti-Muslim bigotry as one single force against bigotry rather than divided? I don't know exactly what you mean by this, but
Yeah,
the answer
I
is
know.
hmm?
I know what it means. Like, for example, like I've actually noticed, I actually changed my mind on this one.
Hmm.
Um, because there are certain times that people mention that this is Islamophobic, right?
Hmm.
And you look at what they're highlighting, and it is a problem. Like what they're highlighting is a problem. It's a case of anti-Muslim bigotry. Like it's not somebody criticizing Islam or insulting Islam. It's an actual form of bigotry that is happening,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
that's
they
right.
they're mislabeling it. Like they're calling it Islamophobia, and we would have preferred to call it anti-Muslim bigotry. However, like I feel like maybe it's not always the best idea to like you look at what is being highlighted, and it's actually a major human rights violation, right? And they're trying to highlight a major human rights violation, and all of a sudden I'm, instead of me joining them highlighting the human rights violation, instead of focusing on that, if I end up focusing on like, well, you're using the wrong terminology. I mean, yeah, they are, but is that really the thing that I want to highlight when they're correctly pointing out a major human rights violation?
Mhm.
Like, would it not, like, am I distracting, am I taking away attention from the human rights violation that is being highlighted to correct someone's language? um is that the best use of my efforts in that
Yeah,
situation, right?
I
but,
think
but
I'm on the same page as you on this. So like I think that when people say, and I'll tell you, it's a very specific example, Amir, where this applied to me recently, is when Axios interviewed Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan. They asked him about, you keep on complaining about Islamophobia in Europe and Islamophobia by the French, but what about the Uyghur genocide that's happening that China is doing to Muslims? So in that case, I'm not going to say, well, it's actually anti-Muslim bigotry, and that's what the term we should be using, not Islamophobia. But I think it actually helps to create that symmetry and say, okay, you are concerned about Islamophobia in France, but what about the massive Islamophobia that China is committing, right? So that works. Typically, I just use the term anti-Muslim bigotry when I respond to it without necessarily calling it out. Like, well, but I agree with Armin. Like, it depends really on the context of the thing. If you have a conversation about what the correct term is, then it's appropriate to call out the problem with the term. But if you are actually talking about this in terms of a huge human rights abuse and it's clearly something that's anti-Muslim, then it's probably more effective to use a term that the other person is using in order to get the point across.
No, I wouldn't use the term. I would never use the term Islamophobia. I would never. I would not use that term myself. But I'm just saying maybe it's not worth it to just like call them out. That okay. So here's the thing. First of all,
Yeah, call
with
them out right
regards to
there.
the
Yeah, yeah,
let me
yeah.
okay, hold on. Let me actually make a few points. I do think that I don't think like if somebody points out to anti-Muslim bigotry in France, I don't think like you should be like, what about China, right? I don't think that's a good thing to do. There are many things in France that are completely justified, that people call Islamophobia, but they're justified. But I mean, France also does have actual cases of anti-Muslim bigotry, like that they do need to be highlighted without like bringing up China every time, right? However, so the counter argument to what I just said, like people, like let's say somebody is actually pointing out a legit case, like for example in France, some Muslims were stabbed, right, just for being Muslim, and people were screaming at racist, like actual racist, like not just bigoted, like anti-Arab racist thing when they were doing that, and so these are and they were attacking them because like wearing a hijab or something like that. So that needs to be highlighted. Let's say somebody was highlighting that case that happened in France and they were calling it Islamophobic, okay? So, and let's say I wanted to also highlight it, but I didn't push back on the fact that this is not Islamophobia, this is anti-Muslim bigotry. Islamophobia is meaningless term, right? Let's say somebody could be like, Armin, if you don't push back on Islamophobia, if you don't say that this is a bad term because you're highlighting something more important, the problem with that is that over the long term, the word Islamophobia, because it's about Islam, if you don't tackle that, will be used as a way to make it seem like attacking Islam is because attacking Islam is now going to be mixed in the same bag as attacking Muslims individually, right? So if you don't correct that mistake, you're actually helping with additional anti-Muslim bigotry, because a lot of Muslims who want to defend Islam will keep mixing our criticism of Islam with anti-Muslim bigotry, and they will completely dilute and take away attention from Muslims who do need protection from personal individual attacks, so much so that it will be more difficult to defend Muslims, because people will think that every time you're defending Muslims, you're actually making apologetic arguments for Islam. So actually, it's within, some people would argue that it's in the best interest of Muslims themselves for you to correct that this is not Islamophobia, let's call it anti-Muslim bigotry.
Right.
Okay?
And it's like,
so my solution to that, go on, Adi.
No, I'm saying like those videos that we made with Seth Andrews. I mean, this is exactly, if you guys could go watch that, that's exactly what I was saying, is that the word Islamophobia actually exploits the pain of actual victims of anti-Muslim bigots and uses that to stifle criticism of Islam. But what I was saying, Armin, was I was talking about a specific example of that Axios interview of Imran Khan, when they actually told him, they said, well, what's your problem? He complained about the Islamophobia in France and everything. And then they asked him specifically, he's like, China's doing this genocide, and why are you concerned about France? And you're not saying anything. They were pointing out his hypocrisy. So for that specific example,
I got it. But I was, but let me finish.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I'm not talking about whataboutery in every situation. No.
Okay. Sounds good. What I was trying to get at, I said all of that to make this point, is that I think my solution, what I come up with, is that it is to quickly tap on it, touch up on it, but without making it the highlight, right? So this is my solution. If a legitimate case of anti-Muslim bigotry is happening, okay, and somebody's bringing attention to it, but they're calling it Islamophobia, what I would do if I wanted to join them to bring attention to that, I would mention that I use the term anti-Muslim bigotry without making that the subject of the discussion. Like really lightly tap on it and then move on to highlighting the case. So
or when you respond to it, you can just say it.
So like, say I have like a Muslim woman that is trying to bring attention to the way Muslims are being treated in China, and she's like, this is the absolute case of discussing Islamophobia and stuff like that. So what I would do is, like, I completely agree with her. This needs to bring attention to, more people need to be talking about it. These are the solution. This is how I think we should be pressuring China. These are, if I was like on a panel or something with them, everything she's, I would keep confirming the things that she's saying as deserving of attention. I would lightly say, I don't call it Islamophobia. I call it anti-Muslim bigotry. However, and then I will continue highlighting it and agreeing with it. So I will make sure that I touch on it. I will make sure that I mention it. I will make sure that I refer to it as anti-Muslim bigotry and not Islamophobia, but very lightly, without trying to distract from the main thing. So that's my solution. Yeah.
Hey guys, if you want to join these streams live, get your comments and questions read by Ali and Armin and the guests, and most importantly, to get full access to the full video versions of all these episodes, become a patron. Link in the description below.